We're waiting. Jamie's on our
I
way.
think we're set now. Oh, nope.
Okay. Call to order. Okay, roll call, please.
Monroe,
Here.
Mr. Lee Mack,
Here.
Dr. Lee Corns,
Here.
Mrs. Ling,
Here.
Mr. Dice, Mr. McKenna,
Here.
Mr. Stepanovich.
Here.
Pledge allegiance.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic
For which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay. Mr. Nestico, any announcements or updated amendments?
No, there are none this evening.
Okay. Consent calendar items. May I have a motion, please?
Motion to approve the consent calendar items.
Second.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The mayor's not here tonight. Are you taking his place tonight?
Yes, I can do that. I can
Okay.
present the announcements for this meeting. We'll wait for them to maybe come up here on the screen. Gearhart Farms 23rd Annual Corn Maze will be taking place on the weekends through October 30th at the farm, 5909 Salzburg Road. For more information, please see their website or call the phone number listed there on the slide, 412-302-0739. The Rotary is offering annual scholarships. The Murraysville Export Rotary will offer 40 scholarships for a 3-credit course offered during the 22-23 term at the County Community College. Students from Franklin Regional can apply at the Murraysville Export Rotary website or by visiting the guidance counselor office at the Franklin Regional Senior High School. All students, freshmen through seniors, are eligible to apply, and the deadline is coming soon, September 26th. Monday night is Cornhole Night at the Murraysville Community Center. Weekly from September 12th through November 14th at $10 a person. Registration begins at 6 p.m. and games are at 6:30 p.m. Blind draw, bring your team, or just come have fun. Everybody is welcome. Next event is Oktoberfest. Save the date, October 1st from 4 to 8 p.m. With a chance to win a 1986 Corvette. The Murraysville Volunteer Fire Company Pavilion, 3235 Sardis Road. There'll be German-style food, beer, and wine from local food trucks and breweries. $10 entrance fee, adults only, includes a $2 food and drink coupon, but families and children are welcome. Once again, this is brought to you by the Murraysville Export Rotary Club. And lastly, the Murraysville Farmers Market is continuing on Thursdays from 3 to 7 p.m. through the end of this month at 3235 Sardis Road. That is all for the mayor announcements this month. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Nestico, you're on again.
No comments for this evening's
No
meeting.
comments? Okay. Okay, community input. We have anybody signed up? Thank you, Jim. You're welcome. Okay. Roger Slokowski, step up to the mic, please. Say your name and address.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. I live on McWilliams Road. My name is Roger Solkowski, and I've got 3 of my neighbors here with me. The issue is the property at 3538 McWilliams. I've been dealing with the code enforcement officer for several years. I'm dealing with Jim right now, but I dealt with the other gentleman who left and was replaced. But the situation is, the property is in deplorable condition. First of all, you got garage doors that are not closed, which allows rodents to make a home in there, whether it be rats, mice, chipmunks, raccoons. There's a car on the property that hasn't been inspected, doesn't have current plates or a current inspection sticker for the past 4 or 5 years. The junipers haven't been trimmed in 15 years since she moved in. They are 15, 16 feet high. They cover the first floor windows to the very top. She's got a rhododendron around the side. There was a beautiful rhododendron, which is now cluttered with weeds and trees that are growing out. And the one tree, the wild tree, is growing through the rhododendron. It is about this far from the roof. Now, the code enforcement officer was up there. The other issue is the pool. The pool has not been in operation for the past 6 years. There's no water in it. There's no filter. There's no pump. It's just sitting there, half caved in. Now, the code enforcement officer told me that he looked at it, and he says that she has holes punched in the liner. I can't believe that there are enough holes punched in that liner to let that water drain. All you have to do is drive up Meadowbrook, turn left on McWilliams, and I don't have to give you an address. You will find this property. Now, I have been dealing with the code enforcement guy for years. Nothing is done. All he tells me is they're going to send something to the magistrate, they're going to get a fine, yada, yada, yada. What is going to be done with these people? My neighbors here will verify what I'm saying.
You want to close it up? You got a few minutes left here.
No, that's about it. All you have to do is drive up Meadowbrook, turn left on McWilliams, and I guarantee you, you don't need an address to find this junkyard.
Thank you.
Her cats are always on my deck looking for food. It's disgusting. Thank you for your time,
Thank
ladies
you.
and gentlemen.
Thank you.
Mr. Nestico, is the code enforcement officer on that?
Yes. So there is a lot of accuracy to what's been stated. However, we are working on it. As he mentioned, I look in the files. I can see that the prior code officers were also trying to address the issues at this property. Most recently, our code officer was there, started to make some progress, albeit not enough to satisfy residents that have been upset for some time. But they did cut the grass. She did address the swimming pool. He inspected that. There are no insects or mosquitoes or anything in the pool. It does, of course, gather water. It's a pool, but she did poke holes in the liner, so it does drain. Certainly there is overgrowth there. The garage door is another issue. She does that because she has animals going in and out of the house. So it's been slow to get some traction at this property. He's made a little bit in the last month and a half or so. That's when he started to write letters and visit the property. I know he's spoken with this resident as well as several others. I went to the property one time myself with him and spoke with a neighbor as well. So it is a work in progress. The neighbor has the resident house that we're referring to has limited resources. So that's been part of the difficulty. As far as the vehicle, I know when I was there, I didn't this particular vehicle he's referencing, but I have no doubt that there has been an uninspected vehicle maybe in the past. If not, maybe still there. But at the time that I was there, I didn't see this particular vehicle. There is overgrowth around the side of the house. Our code officer is aware. He is trying to work with that individual to address it. And like I said, in the last month and a half or so, he's gotten some progress there, and we're hoping to make more and try to alleviate some of the concerns that these neighbors are facing.
Okay. So we are getting some action on it, okay?
Yeah, I would like to mention to you, you said that vehicle
You gotta be at the mic. You have to be at the mic.
Be at the
We're on TV.
Yeah, do you have a description? Which vehicle is that?
It's a green and white Chevy Blazer. And if you came up there or whoever came up there didn't see it, I can't believe it because it hasn't moved in 6 years.
Okay.
Okay? So you can't miss it. It hasn't moved.
Okay. Yeah. Well,
And poking holes in that liner, I can't believe that it's not collecting rainwater.
well, it may collect it, and again, I can't speak to it. I wasn't the one at the site.
You weren't one that viewed this property?
I was there. I didn't go back into the yard and view the pool.
Well, you got to
our
go
code
back
officer
into the
did
yard and
that.
view the pool. I mean,
I understand, and our code officer did do that.
Yeah.
And he's the one that did verify that she did poke holes and that it wasn't accumulating water. So he did see that. And again, like I said, I'm not going to speak to it because I don't have the first-hand knowledge. I was there. I spoke with a resident. I viewed the outside
would you like
of the
to view
house.
some of our photos?
I've seen the photos. I've gotten the emails that were relayed to
Diane?
council, and I've seen it myself. And I understand your frustration, and that's like I said, we're working on it. I don't doubt that it's a sore subject that the house.
How would you
does
like to
stick
have
out.
her for a neighbor?
I understand, sir. I do.
What do you
Okay.
think, how much of a discount would you have to sell your property at if she was your neighbor?
I understand that as well. It's part of the
Okay, thank
discussion
you.
we had internally today.
Thanks, Roger.
Thank you.
Okay. Grail Fine, is that fine? Gail okay. Name and address, please. You have 3 minutes.
Okay. Hi, Gail Fiore, 3541 McWilliams Road, Murrysville, PA. I support everything that Roger is describing. I say it's accurate. It is unsightly. It isn't fully mowed. It's really in poor repair. Okay. My concern, I agree with everything, all of Roger's concerns, but my concern is additional. It's a serious health hazard. I mean, you got animals, you don't know how they're getting infected, you don't know how they're getting infested. The cats go all over the place. They're in my deck too. Is that cat going to bite a kid? Because the kids play outside. That's a serious health problem. I don't know how the municipality is organized, but certainly this would constitute being reported to the health department. They're a serious health threat. That's my primary concern. And there's kids that live across the street from that house. And then there's kids, he has grandchildren. There's kids all over the place. And they're going to pet the kitty cat. So, and that's just the kitty cat. I don't know what else can happen. But it's a serious health threat, and that's why I'm here today. Thank you.
Thank you.
Michael, would the animals be an animal control issue as opposed to a municipality issue? No?
Well, potentially, but not necessarily. I mean, I think that there are, again, I don't know the number, but there are cats out there that she takes care of them. She has food, and again, I think that's why the garage door is open, to allow them to kind of go in and out. Again, not the best method of caring for the animals, and certainly a concern. The garage door shouldn't be open, but I don't know what happens if, once she closes that, I don't know if that then creates a further set of problems. So that's why we're, again, trying to step through it slowly. I've only learned bits and pieces of that aspect of it, but I can't answer specifically whether that is an animal control issue. I don't, I think.
If it doesn't go down, and you don't know what kind of infestation and filth is inside of that. That place is a disaster. So does it child have to get hurt before you guys say, oh, we should have done something? You need to have some kind of tragedy before you move.
Okay,
Could you speak-
thank you. Anybody else who would like to comment?
I have one more,
Sign up.
one more thing. Could you speak to the protocol when the code enforcement officer is notified and what exactly is within our limitations?
Sure. So, I mean, obviously, he received, our code officer, the newest code officer, just started in late June. He became aware of this property almost immediately. because he was sending letters out in early July. So I don't know whether it was because of referral from the residents or something on his desk when he started here, but he became aware of this property right at the outset. He sent letters to the resident of the property, as well as the owner. And the owner is the one that's ultimately responsible. And the owner doesn't reside there. So the owner either resides, there's an address of Pittsburgh, and also one that we've been sending correspondence to the state of Florida. So that's the beginning part of some of the complication, is we're not dealing with the property owner themselves. We're dealing with a tenant or a resident, if you will. But from there, after the letters go out, we try to make contact with that property owner. He finally did within the last month or so. And at that point in time, he begins to try to work with them to get a result. At the end of the day, certainly if we have to issue citations and go to court, that's one step in the process. But ultimately, the goal is to try to rectify the issue and clean up the property. That's, of course, what the neighbors want. That's what we would want to see. The goal isn't necessarily just to go to court or assess a fine. And as we all know, I'm sure council is very familiar, even if we get a fine or a judgment against someone, that doesn't mean that the property issue gets rectified as well. So, the ultimate goal is to try to get something completed there and progress made. So once he made contact, they cut part of the grass, and then several weeks later, then they cut, I guess, another part of the grass. So it's been slow. Looking back at the history of this property, this has been going on for some time. I think that every time a prior code officer would make communication with the tenant there, she was slow to do things, but she would start and never really follow through. So at this point, when you ask what the protocol is, it's to try to make contact, try to get their attention, and then start to work towards a solution, more so than just getting a fine and a judgment against them at the magistrate. That's where we are in the process right now. Ultimately, if the tenant or the owner does not comply, then you can resort to the citations and take them to the magistrate. But at this point, he's trying to he's trying to work with them, but it's been going slowly because the property owner in this case expresses that they just don't have the resources to take the action necessary. When you do look at this property, there is a lot of overgrowth. It grows up on the sides of the house, in the fence area. You've seen in some of the pictures that they've sent to council. And apparently, this individual is expressing that they just don't have the machinery or the tools, I guess, so to speak, and doesn't have outside help to assist her with this. So that's why it's been, again, a slow process. So I don't know if that answers your question with the protocol, but ultimately, our code officer is typically going to try to make contact and try to work towards a solution before anything, because ultimately that's what the goal is. We talked today quite at length about the citation process and going through that. And that may be the ultimate outcome in this case, but again, that's not going to help the neighbors. If this individual is fined for the property itself, it's still not getting the outcome that these folks are looking for. So that's the difficulty.
Is the property a rental property, or is it?
I believe it's.
If the owner doesn't live there, it's a family member living there? It's not a rental.
I believe, if I'm not mistaken, I believe it's their daughter, the property owner's daughter. I could be wrong with that, but I think that's correct.
You want to say one more thing? You want to step up to the microphone?
Yeah.
Oh, she wants to go first.
Name and address. Name and
Yeah.
address.
Name and address, please.
My name's Joyce Solkowski, 3550 McWilliams Road, next door. The thing I want to talk about, and I don't think you can do anything about it because I don't think there's anything in Murraysville against it, but it's, what's it called? What's that stuff growing? Bamboo. Yeah, bamboo. And it, we put up a privacy fence, but it doesn't matter because bamboo travels underground. It comes under our fence and it grows in our yard, and you can't get rid of this bamboo. And I mean, it's pretty thick now. It's very heavy on her side. In between the two fences, it's heavy, and now it's on our side. And you know what my biggest problem with that is? First of all, it keeps coming more and more in my yard. And second of all, what does that do to the value of my home, our home? When we go to sell it, I mean, who wants that? So, I mean, it's just, yeah, that's all I wanted to say.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, I think there's a lot of follow-up being done on that property, which is good. Okay. Are you-
Keep it short. Keep it
I
short.
just want to say that other neighbors have described to me that they saw drug dealers on the property. And I also want to point out that if these people were going to correct the problem, it would have been done by now. They're not going to correct the problem. They're not going to correct the problem unless they are put in a position where they have to correct the problem. And you know that, and so do I. This is a long-standing problem, and it's growing in severity. So, I mean, it needs to be addressed, and I'll just make my last point again. Do you need for something bad to happen before you take action? Because that's what you're looking at. And then there's, I don't want to say, but there's implications and ramifications to that. So thank you.
Thank you. Okay, let's move on here to liaison comments. Matt, do you want to start out?
Sure. The Parks and Recreation, we met last Tuesday. One of the things they're working on still is the community parks and what types of things are going to be added to those. A lot of good ideas as far as concrete structures and tables with games and things like that that we're looking at the opportunities with. We'll be working with the foundation on that a lot. So that's one thing that is being worked on. Upcoming, Mr. Nestico already mentioned the Oktoberfest on 10/1 from 4 to 8. Also coming up will be the Trick or Treat on the Trail. That's going to be on 10/29. It's from 12 to 2. Had a great turnout for that last year, so all families are invited. It really is a nice event. Tonight there was an event too down at the community center. Obviously, a little too late for that. That was at 6:30 today. In regards to the Holocaust, we had a couple of speakers and a lady that was actually in there. So and her daughter. So we appreciate them doing that program there. Other than that, we did have the Boy Scouts and the Girl Scouts were in. They're going to be doing some work on the Skeena Trail, which is up off of North Hills Road. He's going to be clearing out. It's a really overgrown trail, so it's not being used as much. They're going to clear a lot of that out, and he's actually going to put trail signs and whatnot in there. So that's one thing that where he's going to be starting that fairly soon. So that's it.
Thank you. Jamie?
School board held the committee of the whole in the regular board meeting this past Monday, September 19th. There was nothing of mutual concern with council, but it was interesting to note that they did hire a second assistant superintendent.
Jamie?
Pension does not meet again until November 10th.
Thank you. Carl?
I was unable to make the Planning Commission, so I can't provide any input there. On a separate subject, but the foundation, the Parks and Recreation Foundation and the cornhole evening, I just might mention that the attendance was very light, and there's consideration of waiving the $10. It's not been formalized as yet, but I'm pretty sure they're going to waive the $10 fee.
Okay, thank you. Jason?
Yes, the library met last Thursday. From an operational point of view, everything's going well, thriving, programs are good. Listed on the website if anyone's interested or sign up for the emails. What I did want to mention though is you've probably seen in the papers that tomorrow evening there will be a recognition for retiring Theo Van de Veen.
Van de Ven.
Van de Veen, who is been a long time contributor to this community on council, donated some property and worked with the soccer programs. So the public's welcome to come. That's at 7 p.m. at the library.
Okay, thank you very much. Okay, let's move on to administration.
We have no workshop items. Would you like to move on to council action items?
Okay. Engineering.
Would you like a motion for 13A, Mr.
I'm sorry.
Yes.
Have a motion, please?
Well, pardon me, Mr. Vice President. Item 13A, we are going to strike from this evening's agenda. This item will be brought back probably at the next meeting with a little bit more clarification. We thought it may be ready for this evening, so we advertised it, but it turns out that we need just a little bit more time to finalize this part of the project. So
Yeah, I
you can
meant to
move
say that
to
13A was scratched.
so you can move to
Okay, 13B.
I'd like to make a motion to approve the 2023 minimum municipal obligation for the police and non-uniform pension plans.
Second.
Hi, Mayor. Mayor's not here. Hi, Council. This is the annual calculation that's prepared for the budget purposes to determine the amount of funding that is needed for both pension plans. It's based on the actuarial valuations that are given to us from Mock and Hop. Some of the assumptions that are taken into effect for the valuation include changes in the interest rate, salary increases or longevity payments, changes in the mortality rate table that's provided by the Social Security Administration, or experience factors. And since our plan was performing so well over the last 2 years, the experience factor really helped with the non-uniform plan. So our total MMO this year for both plans is $620,852. Today I received in our state aid unit value. It was released by the PA Auditor General, so it wasn't included in the briefing, but I wanted to add this in. The valuation, the unit value went up 7.99% from last year, so it is now $5,180, bringing the total state aid to be an estimated $362,631, which will leave the municipal share at $258,220.
Any questions?
JC, a question. With the state aid, are we obligated to ask for it, or does it come automatically?
We file a PA 385 with the PA Auditor General every year, which explains everybody that is a part of our staff, the salaries that are paid in. And from there, they evaluate how many units that we have based on what is reported. So if that report wouldn't go in, we wouldn't necessarily receive that money. That's how they base that state aid. The amount that is allocated out is based off of insurances that are out of state. So any company that is not based out of Pennsylvania, there's a foreign fire and a foreign casualty insurance, and they pay money to Pennsylvania state to provide insurances within the state. That is allocated out based on the PA Auditor General's unit value.
Any other questions?
And you said from last year that was up, what was it, 7%?
7.99%, and the two prior years was actually down 3. I believe I have this here. It was a decrease the prior 2 years at about 3.84 to 4%. So it was nice that we swung the other way this time.
Oh, yeah.
Very good. Great.
Thank you for all that information, JC.
Are there any other questions?
That's it. All in favor?
Aye.
Say aye. Opposed? Motion carries.
Great. Thank you, Council.
Thanks, JC.
Okay. 14A.
Make a motion to consider approval of CU 1-22 and SP 1-22 for Tommy's Car Wash, a conditional use, a major land development and lot consolidation application, 2 parcels, 49-14-08-0-015 and 49-14-08-0-016, 4765 Old William Penn Highway, B zoning.
Second?
Somebody here from Tommy's Car Wash?
Yes, my name is Charles Sarganretto, and this is Adele Bees, who's the engineer. We're here for representing Tommy's Car Wash. We've been at this, as you know, for several months. Planning Commission has made recommendations, all of which we've accepted. The conditions that they've in place, we've accepted. I think it comes down to one last issue, which is some designation of the sound. And I think Jim has certain options, and one of which we would favor, and that is that if it be approved on the condition that this sound issue be resolved between the sound engineers, that no building permit be issued or any land moved, ground moved until that issue is resolved, although the demolition may start. Jim, did I phrase that correctly?
Yeah. I guess admittedly, we know that the noise ordinance can be a difficult ordinance. There are some unique circumstances that relate to the car wash that are not specifically clear enough in the noise ordinance. So probably for the last 2 to 3 weeks, we've had the expert from Tommy's and our expert discussing alternatives and methods to bring them into conformance with the noise ordinance. So there was really 4 options that came about. One would be to deny the plan, and I would not recommend denial of the plan. We've been at this since February. Tommy's has acquiesced to all of the wishes that were brought forth before the Planning Commission, including the style of the building, the coverage of the vacuums, the retaining wall, et cetera. So they've worked in good faith, and I certainly would recommend that we consider to work in good faith with them. The second option would be to table it for 2 weeks, subject to them granting us an extension and during that period of time, hopefully the noise consultants can come to terms with the issues that are outstanding. The third would be, as I was outlined in the conditions in the briefing that was provided, and that's essentially an enforcement issue, that there would be approval, and if in fact there was a ordinance complaint or violation down there and it was determined that they were not in compliance with the ordinance, that they would commit to abate the issue at hand. The fourth would be the condition approval upon the mutual agreements of party to come to compliance in conformity to the ordinance, which is basically the recommendation that Charles put forth. I would encourage council to incorporate in their motion the conditions that appear on the last sheet of the presented in the Dropbox.
Yeah. Any questions?
What is the sound issue? Like, what are they asking them to do?
Perfectly honest, it's Greek to me. Yeah. It's a very difficult understanding of tonals and of LEQ maxes and LEQ mins, and admittedly, I'm not even knowledgeable of some of those requirements of the ordinance. It seems to center around a tonal pitch from the vacuums. And the assumption was made by the applicant, worst case, that all 13 of those vacuums would be running during peak hour, and I don't know that that's realistic. So there are certain tones that are generated off of that particular scenario, and it's just a matter of trying to come up with a solution that is satisfactory to our expert, Babbage Acoustic, that they can send me a letter and say, yes, there's conformity here.
I think they're trying to get some information from the manufacturer of the equipment as to what tones are emitted by the equipment. Submit that to Babbage. The sound people are going back and forth with each other. They feel that it'll be worked out. There's a solution there in some fashion or another, and we'd like to get this project underway.
So the recommendation at hand would be to approve the project to allow the start of demolition, but not to move earth or start building anything until the sound is
So this is
rectified.
worked out satisfactorily.
Subject to the conditions in that.
Right.
Everybody agree with that?
Reasonable.
That makes sense.
I mean, it sounds reasonable to me.
Adele's not a sound engineer, but she has a little bit more technical knowledge of this than either myself or Jim. And so she may want to speak a little bit to it. But
I mean, you know, what I was told by our expert internally was that the criteria that they're asking for isn't something that is going to swing the sound levels one way or another. It was more a question about what was used in the inputs for the model. So I think at the end of the day, no matter what is supplied, it's going to still be the sound levels that made me feel better. But.
Yeah, if or some other kind of abatement is required,
We'll do it.
they would be required to do that.
whatever it takes.
Just so I understand then, with the 4 options you had listed, which one are we?
I think number 4.
Well, the applicant would prefer conditional approval and that no permits be issued other than the demolition permits until we've got a letter of agreement between the parties. The other would be to table it for 2 weeks and see if they could work it out within that period of time, subject to them extending a time waiver.
We've been at this for 7 months. I'd like to get something.
Matt, and what was your recommendation, Matt?
I mean, I think what they're saying is pretty reasonable on that they're just asking to start the demolition of the building that's existing there now, but not to start any construction on the new building until the sound issues have been resolved on both sides. Okay. And whatever that recommendation is, they'll have to conform to that.
Okay.
So, I mean.
Everybody agree with that?
Yeah, I mean, my thoughts are why let the property sit vacant
Right.
longer. I mean, if they can start to knock whatever they're gonna knock down and start to clean it up, by then hopefully they'll rectify whatever.
Okay, want to make a motion to that effect?
Well, and to amend maybe the original.
Yeah, so I'll amend my recommendation to consider approval of all of what I read prior, but we will approve this on a conditional use that they will, we will not give any building permits, that we will just allow for demolition to start. The building permits will not happen until the sound issues are rectified and everyone's in agreement.
You agree with that? Okay.
Before we vote on this, could I ask a question going back to the traffic? You had a traffic engineer that did a consulting for you. In the report, is this traffic planning design, is that our traffic consulting engineer that concurred?
That's correct.
Okay, that's all I needed to know. Thank you.
I would there are waivers that were requested by the applicant and the conditions listed in the plan. I would incorporate that in the motion for approval. And that'll appear in the developer's agreement, which will be executed by the applicant.
Okay.
We were looking for the, just as a point of, the occupancy, not the occupancy permit, the highway permit from the state, has that been received?
That's a condition of approval.
Okay.
And what I had put, when I amended my recommendation or my motion, it would also be that they conform to all of the conditions that were given by the Planning Commission, and which they've all agreed to. That's on top of the sound.
So you had the motion, we have a second?
Second the motion.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Aye. I'm opposed.
Okay.
Okay.
What's that, 5-4, 1 against? Motion passed.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Coordinate them.
Good. Next one is 15A. 15A,
Yep.
consider reducing the letter of credit held to ensure completion of the required improvements to the Reagan Ridge development in the amount of $80,592.60.
Second.
Jason and Carl.
Who has that?
It was Carl and Jason.
Yeah. No, I did already. I made the motion.
You made the motion, you,
Yeah.
I second.
you second, okay.
Excuse me, not much to add into this item. The developer will still have an amount remaining of $444,710, and everything from the engineer indicates that the development is moving along as expected.
Looks great out there.
Yeah, any
Really does.
questions?
Yes.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion passed.
Okay. There is an executive session.
Yeah? What do you got here? I don't think we have any public works and parks. Any old business?
No old business, but I will add that the executive session can also be delayed. The mayor, as well as council president, are not here this evening. It is not a pressing item. I think it would be relevant to have them in some of that discussion, so we can even move that to next month.
Okay. Any new business? The executive session was moved to the next meeting. One more motion.
Make a motion to adjourn.
Second.
Motion adjourned.
All in favor? Aye. Okay.